Hey, you guys. Hope you guys are doing well. Happy Wednesday, June 18th. And as promised, we're back. Now, you guys, I'm about to take a nap because I had a very productive week thus far. And I got to lay it down. Okay. And before I go, it says that my tablet charge is only 6%. So I'm going to make this very quick. If you're barely catching, up to what we're doing now, today, it's 5 days. This is my birthday week. And so hello to all the, happy birthdays to all the fellow Geminis out there whose birthday is from the 15th to the 22nd. And so, of course, I like being gifted. I like being spoiled. And so I'm like, you know what? This year we're going to do something different. I'm still expecting my gifts and spoiling, from, my people and, clients, friends, whatever, however. But I was like, also, some of y'all want gifts too, right? I mean, and so either way, and I told y'all, there's a particular goal that I have. And so I'm going to be, sticking to my goal. And so you guys, we're dealing with today, 24 hours every day, we're dropping a gift. And, the time is getting further out. And so until 4 p.m. tomorrow, Pacific Standard Time, the Ancestral Karmic Healing event, webinar, situation, migration is going to be available. And so, of course, you guys, they always say you got to lead by example. And, we're going to get a little personal now right here. We always talk about this, right? But we're going to get a little personal. Of course, I'm going to even give you a little background of what exactly ancestral karmic healing is, right? Different ideas, but I'm going to tell you what it is. And so, I've witnessed people, personally, we're going to start with the inside out. Trauma, I've seen people reenact on things. My mother told me stories. My father told me stories about what they endured as children. And I was just thinking, y'all, and this is amazing how this works too, because, over the past 5 years, I relocated to, Southern California, and I wanted to start my healing journey. And I knew that it had to start from the maternal and paternal energy, because we are, and I keep telling y'all this, we are our ancestors' nightmares and dreams, right? Because, of course, everything that we're made up of, and not everything, but most of it, we're borrowing energetic, karmic energy from them. And so they even speaks about the children, like if your parents are, bad or you're bad, your kid's going to be 2 times your, they're going to be double trouble. And so either way, I don't want to, because I sound like I got 6% to get into this, and maybe, going into the, class, the introduction, for those who sign up for it, maybe I can, go a little more in depth with it. But I've seen things, I've heard stories, and just like going through the emotions, y'all, of me hearing my parents, with their struggles and what they dealt with, and even their life choices, I was like, honey, it's going to stop with me, right? It's going to stop with me. And I'm not saying that this is, what has happened and why even my siblings have, done a 360, because they, were doing certain things, even as teenagers that I would never have thought about doing. I was like, oh, what the fuck is going on here? But now I understand that it is ancestral karmic energy that is at play. And so once I started getting my healing through many modalities, many techniques, including starting with, a psychologist and a therapist, I noticed that my aunt, my siblings started changing, right? And they started having a mind change, because, of course, once again, we start getting into ancestor veneration. We're asking for healing, because, of course, the nightmares, the trauma that your ancestors, and don't let it be that your ancestors have passed away from something very traumatic, because now that is something that you energetically inherited, right? You don't just inherit money and stuff, right? Energy, life, goals, health issues. This is all ancestral. And so, y'all, me going into this, I noticed a lot of things that I did not want to be a part of, going into, family and, and I say family because it's like, you flock together, birds of a feather flock together. So like family, friends, I grew up thinking these were like my aunties and uncles, but they were like friends of the family. Like, their behaviors, their fighting, their alcohol abuse, their drug abuse, their, nicotine abuse, like all these things I did not want to be a part of. I was like, oh no, thank you. Going into even like financial burdens, because of course you also inherit financial issues, right? Once again, everything you are is karmatic or karmic energy. Okay, it is a debt from your ancestors, and like I said, I would say your descendants will pay for what you do. And so I worked on myself, y'all. And regardless of all the things that I've been through, I understood that I was going through these things to change. And of course, it wasn't for me to go through these things to come out to the public and say, this is how you're going to overcome these obstacles. This is how you're going to, beat these odds and challenges. I knew that one day that I was going to have nieces and nephews. I knew that one day, I had younger cousins. And of course, they needed to see somebody different, right? They didn't need to see a role model, but they needed to see somebody. They needed to see that, yes, most of our family drinks. And even going into this too, y'all, me and my mom, we talk about this a lot. Like my grandfather and his brothers and stuff, like, my uncles and all that good stuff, they would like, when they were like sober, they would be one way, right? They'll be functioning normal, father figures, uncles, and come here and give me a hug. And, oh, you need some money? Go to the store and get you something, like that thing. Right? But when they started drinking, it's like another side of them came out, and they did not let the kids really see that side. Like they were gambling, they were like fighting, arguing, and it's like they were intentionally doing it. And it wasn't an intentional thing. Like I said, we're going to get drunk to evoke these energies, but it was an inherited energy. It was an inherited idea. And of course they passed it down onto my cousins, and my mom's, cousins and brothers and sisters, because a lot of them, either got locked up, they're still in jail, or they're dead. And of course, this is karmatic energy. This is karmic energy and inherited from, my ancestors. And so, of course, I've learned this. And of course, I've learned techniques that I still do to resolve. And of course, I was telling people, you are the answer to ending ancestral patterns. And unfortunately, you cannot clear out all of them through only ancestral healing, because a lot of your ancestral karmic are teachings that were passed down to them. So if I came up with the idea to remind, let's say my kids of how worthless they are. And hell, let's not even say my kids. Let's say that I'm in an era where, my people are feeling oppressed. They're feeling, like they ain't got nothing. Maybe all their power, all their money, resources were stripped from them. And now there's a new story. So now I'm going to imply to them that they are weaker, that they are inferior. They start to develop anxiety. They start to develop depression. They start to develop, suicidal, and y'all know what I mean by that, ideas. And a lot of them did it. It would be interesting to know what was the suicidal rate during the time of the ancestors. It'd be interesting to know what was the suicidal rate, even during the 1950s and 60s, because these are things that people really didn't talk about. And so these anxiety, mental, emotional issues are now passed on to you, because either they tell you the exact same stories. Don't trust these people. These people are nothing good for you, blah, 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 blah. And like I said, you have a fear now. You're afraid to go out at night. You're afraid to, be around certain people. And like I said, these may even be phobias and emotional distresses that you're like, why do I have this? Ancestral karmic energy. That's what that is. It's energetic, karmic, ancestral, energetic, karmic, trauma. It develops, right? And so either way, like I said, testimony, I can like I said, I'm always down, y'all. I always tell y'all this. I'm always down to prove, to put it to the test. That baby, I don't just gloat and be prideful about me being, drug free, alcohol free, cigarette free, pill free, Percocet free, Seroquel free. I don't boast about that to make it seem like I'm better than y'all. I am a survivor, though. I am definitely somebody who put in the work. And when I tell you that it was not an easy process, and I tell you it's still not an easy process, but it's worth it. Because if I want to see change, and like I said, it's not just about me, it's about the lineage after me. It's about paving the way energetically for my nieces and nephews and their kids coming when I have kids and my kids, and so forth, to set aside that now there's a whole nother energy at play. You can't say that you got into a fight with somebody because you were drunk. You can't say that you let the alcohol get the best of you, so you domestic violence somebody. You can't say that, someone drugged you, because you're not in that type of setting anyway. If you don't drink, you don't smoke, you're not in that type of setting. Okay, let's talk about it. And so that's what it is for me. It's a reminder to myself when I speak about it and I see other people, and I always say this and I will continue to say this, people of a particular experience, if you are really doing ancestral work, if you're really doing ancestral veneration, because we are asking for healing, there should be no addiction to any type of drug. There should be no type of substance abuse. There should be only, if you need to pop a pain pill because you're in pain, honestly, and pain pills should not be taken for extended periods of time. There should be no excuses for any of that other stuff. And of course, you may say out of your own mouth, I drink because I love the way it tastes. I smoke because I love the way I feel. There's a lot of other things that will give you the same feeling, the same taste that is not really alcohol. I've tasted wine before. I'm not a fan of any type of alcohol. I told y'all I can tolerate vodka, but I don't really care for any taste of alcohol. I've tried it all. I don't care. It's disgusting to me. I don't know why people drink it. But I've also had, pomegranate juice. I've also had, V8, the purple drink, and it tastes very similar. Okay. And so I'm like, baby, I like the way that tastes too. And I know that's more beneficial for me. And I know that's not going to stir up any type of energies or emotion in me. And that's another thing too. A lot of us are stuck in cycles. And I keep talking about this, right? We're stuck in cycles. And you are thinking that some of the things you're doing are not harming. You're like, well, what is me smoking a blunt is going to do for other people? It's actually mellowing me out. What is me drinking going to do? It's actually mellowing me out, and I'm minding my business. I'm in the privacy of my own home. But little do you know that those substances could be waking up blockages that your ancestors had. So maybe they did not become the best they possibly can be because they were alcoholics, because they were drug addicts, because they had other addictions, other things. And so these things come up. And it's not because, it's just in me to be a drinker. I'm a drinker. I'm never going to stop drinking. No, that's ancestral karmic debt. That's ancestral karmic trauma. That's you inheriting the karmic issues from your ancestors. And once you start clearing that stuff out, you will start to notice that your taste for certain things change. And I'm telling y'all right now, there's even certain acts I did where I was like, girl, I don't act like that. And I thought, well, maybe I was just going through a phase. I'm like, well, and even going into that, Spirit told me that phases are also ancestral karmic energy coming up, where you're like, girl, you've never had the idea to start fighting people. You used to be very quiet and to yourself, and all of a sudden you get in a setting and you're like, I don't like the way this bitch look at. Bitch, what the fuck you looking at? And fuck you, bitch. And you get very aggressive, and that's not you. And then maybe they're like, well, maybe you're depressed. Well, that's also karmic, ancestral karmic debt. That's also ancestral energy coming up. Depression, anxiety. I learned through my healing process, right? That anxiety, we all go through normal anxiety, but anxiety comes and goes. It's not supposed to be something that lingers. When you have a lingering anxious feeling, or you have a lingering depressive feeling, this is karmic energy coming up. This is ancestral karmic energy coming up. This is a feeling that's not your own, and it becomes overwhelming. And even going into this as well, y'all, because I mentioned this before, when you're in that state, nothing could get you out that state. Nothing could get you out that state. Nobody, no good words, nothing could get you out that state until you learn the ancestral karmic blockage that has caused this energy to come up. Because even going into certain circumstances in life, it's your ancestral's life story living itself out again. And so you're like, but why me? But why me? Because you're the one that's meant to change those patterns. You're the one that's meant to be different. You're the one that is meant to break those jinxes, those hexes. You're the one. You're the one, honey. And that's why it's why me, why me? I mean, hell, I always ask myself, why you'd even ask yourself why me? Because I have relatives who don't understand how destructive, chaotic, and negative they are. They don't understand how deep in the ancestral trauma that they are. And I see them. I don't associate with them. Like, even going into loving, y'all, it's so crazy to even think about it. Like, I love my family from a distance, most of them. And it used to break my heart because I'm like, damn, I really wish we were a lot closer. But I look back and I'm like, this is ancestral karma. This is ancestral trauma and karma showing up. And they don't want to heal it. They're looking for outside sources. They're saying it's the outside world. They're saying they're like this because the white man. They said they're like this because of, you know, what their mama did when they were a kid, which is true. But it's really, you know, beyond you. It's greater than you. So this is why we go through cleanses. This is why we go through purging. This is why we go through purifications. We don't just do this because it's fun. We don't just do this because it's trendy. We understand that the energy collects. We understand that the energies are stored within our cells. It's stored within our memory. It's stored within our organs. And these energies come up as heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, cancer, the deterioration of bone. Like, these things show up as that. And so I, like I said, started at 19 years old. And I fully said, I need to complete and wrap this up 5 years ago when the COVID hit. I said, well, baby, I know that this is meant for me to really go in and do some deep inner work, because we have to be locked down and put away. I was like, this is time for me to do some deep work. And like I said, in that process, a lot of stuff was revealed. And I told y'all, we even did a little light thing, you know, over the past 2 years. I don't remember what I called it. It was a little group thing where we were, it was the ancestor veneration. And I was kind of sharing some of my ancestral, you know, pictures and even stories, y'all. Like, my grandmother, you know, had a brother who died when he was 15 months old. And y'all, me hearing that tore me up. Now, this happened, girl, 80 years, excuse me, yeah, 60, no, yeah, like 70, 80 years before I was even born. Okay, before I was even born, okay, born. And the idea of that, I mourned that. I had some type of historical memory of that. And that fucked me up. And even going into my mom telling me stories, John, this is after I started my ancestral healing process. My mother and I, we would talk, and she was like, well, now you're grown, so we can have these discussions. And going into some of the stories that, like, my grandmother, what the, you know, the things that she went through and stuff, y'all. And it was hard for me to hear those things. And like I said, it tore me up. But I knew that this was a part of the cleansing process. I knew that I needed to hear these things to know that I'm on the right track, to know that there's a reason why my craving for foods are different. There's a reason why my energy and want to be around certain energy is different. My reasons to why I don't want to fall in, or I don't crave or have the desire to do certain things. Because like I said, these were karmic, you know, patterns. These were ancestral patterns that were no good, that was keeping them down. And of course, on both sides, you know, my maternal mother and father's side, they were very successful people. Going even into my father's side, on his, I believe his father's side, they were successful. On his mother's side, they were not. They were, quite struggling, broke, sick. And a lot of them were dying before they even got to be in like their 50s and stuff. And so it was very short term for them. And so all that, like I said, I learned about these things, y'all. And it was like, whoa, it was inspiring. It was motivation. Like I said, it was reminding me that I was on the right path. And so like I said, this is why we do ancestral veneration. This, we like I said, we don't just do cleanses and ancestral connection because it's cute. And, I burned ancestor money. And that's when I figured out too, a lot of these people are lying. When they were like, I burned ancestor money and I got a check just out the blue. Like, girl, so you just burned some paper money and then this energy cleared out some type of spiritual debt. And then all of a sudden you started inheriting money. I doubt that money was being blocked because your ancestors owed money. I'm pretty sure that money was being blocked then and money was being blocked now because of your mental, because of your mentality, what you were thinking, what you were seeing. Because your DNA and your motivation comes from your environment. If you're stuck in sickness and you're stuck in brokenness, that's what you will inspire to be. And so our motivation comes from what we are surrounded by. And like I said, I've learned that. So there are techniques that are very simple. It's not complicated that I can show you all. Of course, like I said, cite my resources. Going into public information is available to anybody to find out what it is and how it is. And then us get into some energetic healings, identifying the blockages and going from there. And of course, like I said, on the blog side and even on the posting, we have, it's a 3-day event. Once you sign up, it's a 3-day process. Of course, we'll do our one-on-one. I ask you, what's going what you feel like is going on. And of course, we'll get into a little reading. I will identify what the blockages are, what's coming up, and that's what we'll focus on. Then you have the option to do it for 30 days, which is a little more consistent. Of course, like I said, you'll be able to reach out to me, contact, weekly. There'll be some type of exercise, just simple stuff, nothing too complicated. So you're like, I got to put aside time. I mean, I'm like, baby, I'm all about investing in yourself. And so sometimes time is all you have, to invest. And to be honest with you, time is really your friend, because what you put in the most, you will get back in greater manifolds. Can we talk about it? What you invest in most, if you invest in a education in a particular career, now you see an increase in your pay. Can we talk about it? When you invest in learning about yourself a little more, who you are, what you are, why you're here, then life starts to give you more experiences to confirm and affirm what you are, who you are, why you are. Hello, can we talk about it for a minute? Is that a little too deep? Huh? When you invest in your healing, you will start to have experiences to actively tell you this is why you needed this healing. And even going to this as well, like relationship stuff. A lot of us, we don't have good friends. We don't have, good relationships. We don't have men and women who love us like we love ourselves. And a lot of us, or hell, some of us don't even know how to love ourselves, because this is, ancestral trauma coming up. A lot of our ancestors didn't care about themselves. And a lot of people could appear to be happy and secure in who they are and really not be that. I feel like when you are happy about who you are and what you are, you take care of yourself. You understand how important it is to protect your energy. You understand how important it is for you to, you are an asset. There's two types of people in this world. We are the assets, we're liabilities. Which one are you? Are you an asset or are you a liability? Like, this is what it comes down to. I like to think of myself as an asset. I don't break the law. I don't commit crimes. I don't maliciously attack people. Let's talk about it. I do have boundaries. But don't get that twisted. I have boundaries because I learned that boundaries are healthy. I learned that, honey, this is how you don't get stuck dry and start aging quicker than what you need to be aging. Hello? I learned that's how you keep your natural energy. I learned that's how you have a peaceful rest. I learned that's how you keep a physical, mental, emotional, good health. And like I said, I can show you these techniques, these practices, these exercises. And of course, in the beginning, you'll be like, oh my God, this is not really whatever. But trust me, the more you practice a little here and there, you will start to see results. And I feel like it's even more important if you have children. If you're a single person, you don't plan on having kids, yes, ancestral, healing is definitely important, because of course there's certain blockages and limits that you have that you can release and, relieve, with working with that. But your children are going to also feel, what your ancestors went through, what you're currently going through. And I even said this too, and I said this, once again, a particular group of people, they really truly feel like, and not all the time, they really feel like they are oppressed. And, people keep reiterating that story. Well, they are, they are, they are. Well, what type of work are we doing in the inside, though, to reflect on the outside? Are we being kinder to ourselves? Because right now, that's what we need. We need to be more kinder to ourselves. How are we feeling about ourselves? What are we doing for ourselves? And then we could be helping other people be good to themselves, and then it becomes a domino effect, a linkage, a chain, if so to speak. A smooth, kink-free chain. And so that's really what it is. We got a lot of broken people out here, miserable people out here trying to eat one, teach one, heal one. And it's like, girl, but you're not healed from your shit. You couldn't show us any type of receipt or proof that you worked on limitations that were put on you. And like I say, even going in the sense of, but poor me, poor me, poor me, poor me. I'm a black trans woman in America, and there are really stiff people like me. So I know I'm destined to be, whatever, whatever, whatever. Girl, yeah, once again, you don't like yourself. There's something, the relationship between who you are and your identity, or your identity and what you've been told you are, there's some type of disconnect there. And that's why I see collectively a lot of things going on. You know, How you doing? Check out the blog spot, y'all. This tablet is dying. Thank y'all for stopping by. And check out the blog spot. 24 hours, honey. Bye for now.